similar endgame to one that Hans had earlier against Anish Giri, and there's just enough time for another game, Danya, but that was breathless, that action at the end.
That was incredible. I got to show where Wesley missed that win at the very end, because I'm not sure myself. We don't have the engine running, folks. If I can pull that game up with an analysis board, let me just show people, and myself for that matter, how was G5 possibly a blunder? I thought it was a phenomenal tactical concept. Apparently, David, this boggles belief. Knight H2, and Black wins here, not because he traps the knight, but because White is simply in Zugzwang. He has to move the knight or the king and allow Black's king to establish itself. Black wins by just shoving these pawns up the board. White cannot afford to give up a third pawn. But how can you blame Wesley for not realizing he's actually playing for a win there?
Yeah, the White Knight actually had to give up that e-pawn. There was just no other way to make a move. And we were highlighting that dramatic ending to the previous game. Nothing new in this game. We keep seeing the same openings on repeat. It's another anti-Berlin. Bishop for knight exchange on c6. But missed opportunity there. Huge missed opportunity for Wesley So, Danya. He needs to convert those. That was difficult, we've all got to say. But he needs to convert those if he's going to fight back in this match.
We're missing opportunity. Wesley's missing opportunities. We're missing a Hans. He got up there. It is now his move. Wesley playing a4, and another one of these sort of anti-Berlin structures, which we get so often in high-level chess. All right. Well, sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do. We have no idea what Hans is doing. Could be adjusting the air conditioning.
Yeah. Sometimes nature calls and you have to answer that call, as you say. But a4, we're going to see Wesley just try to sit on this position. And I've seen him more on the black side than the white, I've got to say. But I've seen him play these positions extremely well, Wesley. So, but then again, Hans has no weaknesses. He's escaped the opening in very decent shape with black. It feels like the opening battle, Wesley, yes, maybe slightly struggling. And there we go. He opens the center, but black has the bishops. So not the end of the world. I saw Hans win a very nice game against Vasily Ivanchuk in a very similar pawn structure. So fun memories. Knight to b6. There we go. Yeah, Danya, just never in trouble, Hans, in the opening, it feels like.
Yeah, and it really cannot this is a pivotal game. Even more so for Wesley because he had such a chance to win that last game. Hans, with 2 games now, one that he actually turned around and won. He almost won that last one. G4 threatened mate, but he's gotten a point and a half out of 2 positions that Wesley wants to get back. But this one, David, it really will decide the momentum going forward into the 3-minute segment. Early thoughts? I'm liking this for Hans. He's got the bishop pair. He's got the white center under control. It's important not to fall into the illusion that just because white has pawns on e4 and d4 that white is much better. That's, not how these top players think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these days the trend is even to sacrifice pawns sometimes for the bishop pair when it's a semi-open position. And yeah, there are enough pieces that have been traded off the board for the extra space that white's center grants to not be the most relevant thing in the position. I'm undecided who I would pick here. I'm going to sit on the fence. Normally I would pick the bishop pair every time, but I love Wesley So's last move, rook e3. He's going to shuffle the other rook across to e1 and try to build an attack maybe on the king side. But yeah, as you say, pivotal game. I've been watching the SEC for years. I know you've been commentating on the SEC a lot, Danya, and a 3-point margin in the 5-minute section when actually Wesley might be aiming to bank some of his points here. That would be already living on the brink.
Yeah, and Wesley really needs a win, a wire-to-wire victory where he gets a good position out of the opening and then converts it without giving Hans opportunities to turn the game around. I think that would do wonders for his confidence. And right now, I like the way that Wesley's handling this middle game. Rook e3 was a really classy move. Now bishop takes h3 is actually not a threat because of knight h4, but Wesley goes king h1 anyway. I think that might be a waste of a tempo. It's not such a useless move. The king is pretty safe here, but this allows Hans to reposition his bishop to a more active square, maybe set up ideas like bishop f4. And I wouldn't be surprised if f7, f5 at the right moment is on his radar as well.
Yeah, if f5 ever happens and you can crack open the center for that black light squared bishop, then black really takes charge. We should confirm to everyone, we should reiterate, the timer at the top left of your screens has ticked to 0, so this is definitely the final game of the 5+1 portion. But after this game, we will have a break. We will see 3-minute 3+1 and things will get only faster, only more furious. So, yeah, stay tuned to everyone at home. This one, Danya, it feels like it's in the balance for now. Are we going to see f4 from Wesley? He's going for it. He really wants to strike in this final game of the portion.
And that queen is feeling anything but comfortable. I don't actually see the queen trap being threatened here. I mean, g4 and bishop e1 comes very close, but that's not the only problem. I mean, these pawns are scary, even if they don't lead to a queen trap. And you can see the blue arrow indicating the urgency with which Hans needs to play. And wow, after a head bob there, I don't know what that signified. f5 is on the board, and it's a pretty natural move. I mean, you cannot allow white to advance a pawn to g4.
Danya, if this were bullet, I would play the move g4 anyway. Fg4, rook g1, just go for it. Open lines. I mean, it's probably not sound. It's probably reckless. But Wesley must be tempted to do something before Black reestablishes some type of... now he goes for it, g4. f5 first.
Whoa!
Whoa. This is erupted.
c5. Just instantly delivered on Wesley's doorstep, and the point is to undermine this d4 pawn, which is protecting the knight, which is holding the position together. F, E, C, D, bishop d4, bishop e5. And when the smoke clears, it's the king on h1 that's going to be on the chopping block. DC, played by Wesley. Washington. Sorry.
Shaky stuff. Now we know the source of the head bob, at least. Hans had calculated 3 moves in advance there. He'd seen c5 from a mile away, but DC, does Black take that back with his bishop? I mean, where to even begin? Do you take on e5?
Do you take on f5? Do you take on h3?
Do you just ignore everything, play queen g5? I don't know. It's just super sharp, this position. Wow.
It should be... No, sorry. This is actually not a move. This is important, right? Anytime you don't have an f pawn, you have to watch the a2, g8 diagonal. And well, what's your default, David? I mean, my instinct would be bishop takes c5. Hans takes the knight and drops his other bishop back, clearly trying to accentuate the pressure on this e pawn.
Yeah, this feels like the safer option. I agree. I would have started by looking in the other direction, but ultimately Hans has a lot more time than Wesley. So if you can see safe moves and play them quickly, then I think that's just as practical as calculating for a minute and finding a slightly better move. But wow, c5 was just crazy, and now it's really hard to tell whose king is safer.
Whoa!
G5.
Are you kidding me? G5. I would be thinking about rook takes c4, by the way. Seriously, that had to be calculated. And then bishop d5, probably unsound. G5? Really?
Whoa. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if you showed me this, I would still I would think it's super sharp. But now, yeah, the black queen is actually trapped, and bishop d5, your tactic, but wrong order, Danya.
Wrong order and no preliminary sacrifice. And Hans causing himself just all of the problems in the world. King g1 now is actually a pretty natural move. Just get the king out of the pin. But Wesley blunders rook takes c4. Takes, and rook takes c4. And I think Hans, I mean, actually, white could end up losing those light square pawns. Can Hans save this?
I think at the very minimum, Hans is going to be safe. Rook takes e4, as you say, just before white is able to get the king off the diagonal, that light square diagonal. He's going to probably be able to hold that endgame. I think he might be a pawn up, Wesley, but opposite color bishops, we all know about those. Rook takes e4, he's got to be found.
Let's also not forget CB exists and bishop takes a5, but even if both of those moves are played, the a pawn's on a light square, Hans misses it, and he allows the king to step out of the pin.
Whoa, huge missed opportunity. Now the white e pawn is going to decide the game. The e and f, they're going to run together. Again, it's about the quality, not the quantity, Danya. Wow, prediction, are we going to see another? I agree, they need it. Are we going to see another turnaround, though?
Well, bishop takes a5, another move I'm puzzled by. e5, e6, and f6. Wesley was 3 moves away. Just forget the pawns on the other side of the board. You don't care about them. You literally don't care about them. Hans cares about them.
And e5.
Okay.
Black rook on c4, almost trapped, but he's breaking that rook out now. Rook f4 maybe incoming. Maybe
remember, White had a trapped rook on c4 earlier that Wesley jailbroke. Now it's Hans's turn. Okay.
Pawns are blocked on the light squares right now, but White's rook is coming in.
Oh. He had rook f6.
Wow.
He still has it.
Oh my god. He's going to find it, Danya. Look at Hans on the camera. There was a pause. He needs to find it. He needs to take that pawn.
Yeah. Unreal. This was basic Betty.
Wow. Maybe we show that later, but this is turning now in Wesley's favor. It's over. Rook d8, rook d7. Black's blockade is broken. He's frozen. Nothing to do.
Wow. I mean, I think just fatigue by both players here, and neither of them was really looking for these tactics, of which there were several, right? Rook takes e4, rook f takes f6. Chances of plenty for Hans, and I think that Wesley will not give him any further chances. That is a clinical move right there. Rook to e7, a statement move, and rook d8 is coming.
Mm-hmm. He's going to win a piece, Wesley. So I'm not going to say it's over, though. There's so many twists and turns.
No.
Ooh, he's going to win that piece at the right moment. Surely, but b4 is coming.
B4.
Some counterplay.
Yeah, b4.
Or
you call it. Rook e2. No way. Where does the bishop go? Bishop's the one rook e1, David. And the bishop actually is trapped. You got to go rook d8 and give up the pawn. Okay,
Hans was laughing to himself there.
I'm going to let the moves speak for themselves, and you speak for the moves.
No, I should shut up too, Dania, because this is just... we said it, twists and turns. Hans himself was laughing on the camera. He might still lose this because white still has the b-pawn.
David, rook e8 and trade rooks and bishop c5. Was winning on the spot. What are they doing here?
Now, we're going to see rook and bishop versus rook, surely, at some point, Dania.
Yeah, plus 60 minutes to the match. Or maybe Hans just wins the pawn and doesn't give up his other pawns. I don't think that's going to happen, though. c3 should be played at some point. But he's not hurrying. I mean, rook d1, you can play it essentially at your leisure.
Yeah, maybe he's going to give up his rook for the bishop at the right time and play c3 and force a draw instantly, but... oof. There we go, c3 played. Draw incoming.
Hey, all four results are possible. Rook d1 is threatened, and Wesley has to give up his rook. It's Hans who's going to be pushing. No way.
I think the only person more amazed than us is Hans himself. Look at that, Dania. If he wins this now, I mean, I don't know how many twists and turns there were in this, but what a game. Wesley inside must be boiling.
Oh, he blundered rook a5. No, this didn't just happen. No, this did not just happen.
Maybe let the clock run out. No, he resigned. So we will get one more 3+1 game, at least one more, depending on how quickly this game lasts, how long it ends. Can't even talk now. So much chess going on, but it's another Berlin, Daniel.
How long it ends and how late it lasts.
Oh, I got confused. I was just looking at the position being like, oh yeah, we've seen this before. And my mind got, I mean, I'm going to have bad dreams tonight of all these slow maneuvering middle games.
Berlin sanity on the board once again. And these Berlins, they've turned into anti-Berlins that have then morphed into structures that resemble a mainline Italian much more than a Ruy Lopez. And this is no exception. Yeah, this is going to be the last game, David. I find it hard to believe the way these games have been going that it's going to take under 3 minutes.
Yeah, unless we see a self-destruct. We've seen that from Wesley a couple of times. But likely that this is the last 3+1 game. And I mean, if Wesley takes this with white, which is feasible, then it's going to be a 1-point game going into the bullet, 1-point match. That would be a lot of fun for the spectators. Hans, though, closing his eyes. Do you think it's finally getting to him? The amount of chess he's played today is just crazy.
Listen, he's human, right? He's a pretty unique human, but he is still human. And no matter how driven you are and how determined you are, and he possesses both of those qualities to the maximum, I mean, at some point, you just don't start seeing the board as well. And, I know that I've had these crazy marathon sessions. He's not just playing casual blitz either. He's playing serious tournament chess. The fact that it's blitz doesn't actually impact the fact that it's just exhausting, just to be sitting in front of the camera for so long. But he needs that final burst of effort, and Wesley needs to use this against him by playing faster than he's playing right now. He's down on the clock once again. And David, not a fan of this d4 square being opened up like that by Wesley.
Yeah, White's position really not that attractive. No obvious moves either. The d3 pawn, a backward pawn, a weakness tying down White's light squared bishop. White's knights both a bit stuck, defending each other, defending d4, as you say. Wow, okay, he
Ugh.
lashes out with g4.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Takes bishop g4, knight g4, and queen g6, David?
So tempting. Hans has spotted it. Otherwise, he would have retreated his bishop. There we go. You called it. Attack.
This is so un-Wesley-like to play g4. I really use this sparingly because I think it's very overused by chess fans. That was a tilt move, just a frustration move by Wesley, and he's going to pay the heaviest possible price. That king is getting chased down. Queen h1's a mate threat.
Rook e6, rook sliding over to g6 if the white king defends against that threat. All of the black pieces are attacking. The queen, knight, bishop, rook coming. It's going to be 4 attackers against not many defenders. Good luck to that white king. Wow, we were talking about potentially a 1-game match. It might be a 3-point swing here. 3 points in it. Rook e6, there we go.
Mate threat. Look at that move by Wesley. Queen a2. What a devilish little resource, but just even h6. Maybe not the most clinical way. I would be considering something like knight d8 and c6 too.
Bishop a5. Or...
yeah. Good man.
Yeah, h6, the human move, the sensible move there. Getting ready to slide his rook, but bishop b3. Wow. I was going to say that's a clever move, but double question mark. He stopped rook g6 at least, Danya.
Yeah, but one door closes, another opens. Yeah, how dare you set up counterplay against the f7 pawn? Who do you think you are, Wesley So?
Oh, this looks terminal for the white king. Under 5 seconds there for Wesley.
Oh,
Hans, he looked like he was... Oh, it's coming. He looked like he was meditating earlier, Daniel, but he's really woken up and just full guns blazing. Attack.
He's got over 2 minutes, and, you know, one could say the main stage of the attack hasn't begun yet. This is in the toilet for Wesley.
Yeah. I mean, if you could pick up a pawn off the board and just throw it back on g3, maybe you hold the door and defend, but nah, too many knights. Oof.
Yeah. No moves?
Under 20. Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh. There must be a mate. Rook f2, minimum. Rook g3.
Take. Oh, check h5, king g5. And then maybe queen f3, bishop f7, king h8, bishop h5, queen g3. I'm not seeing the exact mate, but Hans has 2 minutes. He can pour himself a glass of whatever, water, coffee. You know, he can light the fireplace and just casually calculate the win. I'm sure it exists, David, after queen h2. I'm sure there is a win, but maybe there's no mate, and that can be a huge pitfall. I would actually start with knight takes d5 for the sake of safety.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to look as well. I can't see it, Danya. Knight takes d5 looks like the safe move. Yeah, I was going to say knight e3 as well, just to bank it. But, okay, it's not over.
You're right once again. Whoa, where's the mate? Queen e2, queen f1, h5, and queen h3. It's mate.
Mm-hmm. It's over.
Or
you saw.
Yeah,
there we go.
Beautiful.
So
look at that.
Mm-hmm. Hans Niemann, he does the stretch. He perked up when he saw that mate incoming, and he takes another point. 9-6 now, his lead. 3 points in it as we reach the end of the 3+1 section. And welcome back to the Speed Chess Championship. It is crunch time between Hans Niemann and Wesley So here in the quarterfinals. Hans Niemann holds a lead, 6 points to 9. However, we are entering the 1+1 section, the bullet portion of the match. 25 minutes of intense action, guaranteed to find a winner. But Danya, will it be comeback time? Do you think Hans can hold his nerve?
Well, I think the games are underway, so let's jump right in. It is a 3-point deficit that Wesley So has to erase, and he came pretty close to doing so in the 3-minute segment. But that last game, it put the kibosh on comeback efforts for the time being, but those efforts are being restarted. Hans has the white pieces. David, I think the most important thing in the bullet for Hans is to avoid kind of relaxing and thinking, I got a 3-point lead, I can give away a game. he wants to put his stamp on this match in the first couple games.
Definitely, he could
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
really
whoa.
lay down a mark en passant. Has he forgotten the rules of chess en
It's
passant?
been legal since the 1700s, Wesley.
Wow, he's given up a pawn. Maybe he'll win back on b6, but it's going to cost him a lot more than that, Danya. Crazy type of move to even spot that in bullet.
Hans, in his match one victory against MVL, he went 3.5 out of 8 in the bullet, so -1, but it was enough given the lead he had coming in. So Hans is a very decent bullet player, but I don't think for either of these players it's their favorite time control. Wesley, he just doesn't have the room for these kinds of mistakes. Knight to d2, David, maybe unnecessary because Black's knight, well, it would have been reluctant to move anyway because a6 would fall. Now the b2 pawn is in the crosshairs as well.
Yeah, b2 is edible, and you mentioned the 1+1 segment. Hans, of course, this is his first ever SCC, but historically, Wesley So, the bullet has been his weakest. Statistically, he's struggled from time to time in the bullet segment. However, that wasn't the case against Denis Lazovic, so still chances alive, and he needs to fight back. He needs to hold this one, Danya. He's a pawn down, but at least active pieces for Black.
And Fabiano, who was eliminated very convincingly yesterday, he had an incredible bullet stretch against Alexei Sarana. So you cannot rely on these players' reputations. Each and every one of the SEC competitors is there for a reason. And that's because they can display mastery across all 3 time controls. Wesley trying to curry up some counterplay. The knight gets to d3, but that pawn on a6, it's scary. It's now on a7 and tactics galore. Hans trying to maintain that pawn. Knight c2 is on the cards as well, David.
Yeah, no good squares for that white rook. You're walking into knight c2. You're inviting
No.
Gotta
go for
at
it.
least.
Gotta go for it.
The win, Wesley. Take that bishop. Queen.
Maybe.
Yeah. Queen b6. Or queen somewhere.
Or maybe knight e6 and bishop d4 can be considered.
Ooh. I love it. Your move on the board. The prophet. Oof. Rook c2. Ooh.
d5.
Okay. White's position smells wrong, but he's holding it together here, Danya.
Oh, b2 is hanging, and Wesley should have taken that pawn first so that he could drop back to e5 with check. Now he's lost some time, and e5, Hans is taking over, I think, once again. Or is he?
Ooh.
Maybe not.
Okay, level material now.
Uh-oh, and Hans is another passer. And here it goes, marching up the board. Can it be captured? Rook b1?
Yeah, he's going to give up the exchange, though, and this is holdable for Black. Black is totally fine here. 2 pawns for the exchange.
David, is Black even the one playing for a draw? Black might be playing for a win here with 2 pawns. It should be a draw, though, with best play. But trying to predict the result of any one of these games has been completely impossible.
Yeah, if this was 1+0 bullet, you would prefer Black because it's so easy to move. You have more pieces, simply more pawns. But this is 1+1 with the increment. Anything can happen.
I'm worried for Wesley, though. He's blundered his pawn on h5. And Hans is now taking over once again.
Oh, knight g7, watch out.
Knight f4.
Oh,
Oh, knight g7, you're right.
He's blown it.
Collapse.
White's h-pawn. It's going to decide. Oh, knight e4. Knight e4, and the pawn was...
Oh, my gosh. Knight e4, and Wesley's going to flag here. Oh, my gosh. And Hans takes another time scramble to push this lead up to 4. It's largest lead of the match, David.
That's going to be so hard to come back from, Wesley. He even fought back to a dead-drawn endgame, and quite an easy one to play at that, but to let it slip. Daniel, I think it's just the story of the match. It keeps happening. Time scrambles, Wesley's head goes, and Hans stays calm.
And it's not like Hans, Hans is making mistakes. It's just that Wesley, he's making those big blunders, right? He's blundering the pawns, and he's giving up short tactics, and Hans is just too sharp. He is going to exploit those opportunities even with just a fraction of a second on his clock, as he situates his knight on f4. Another Italian, even in the bullet. This one is quite a bit sharper than we might be used to. Whoa.
Yeah, it's sharper, and Hans says, I want even more. He's going for that white king. I mean, this is gung-ho chess. It's as if he's 4 points behind, not 4 points ahead, Danya. But he's going straight for Wesley's king.
And this is exactly what you need to do, right? He senses that Wesley is reeling. If you give Wesley that confidence win, there is plenty of time left for a comeback. It's not a time situation. Hans knows if he takes these first few games, he might shut down Wesley's hopes before this segment gets too far. This night is going very far. And Hans continues to massage that G-file. It's getting wild out there.
Yeah, the wild, wild west here. But Wesley, he lost a lot of time on the clock as well in that previous game. Losing that end game could be disastrous. But look at the king. Oh, everything's lined up towards that white king now, Daniel.
Look at the clock, David. I mean, 20 seconds to 50. And, there must be something here. D5, rook E8. Wesley's position, it might be crumbling again. Yeah, Bishop E8.
It's the strategy as well, just going on the attack. He's mated Wesley more times in this match than Wesley's probably been mated in the last year. So Hans just all-out attack, committed to this strategy. Offers a queen trade as I say that. Commentator's curse, but still better. Still good for black.
And that rook suddenly switches gears. This is also going to drag this game out. Wait, rook E1, knight E1, and F3. Oh, bishop F3 wins a piece. You can't recapture, you're pinned, and it's over again.
Wesley hangs a piece in time trouble. Hans Niemann's going to take a 5-point lead, barring a miracle escape here. Bishop takes F3. It was just too obvious that we struggled to see it. Wesley didn't see it, and Wesley resigns. I think a good decision to get
in a matchup against MC. But Magnus isn't even thinking about it because Arjun Erigaisi made a statement in Kazakhstan that he will not go down without a fight, and he will fight for that Paris spot. But there are 2 Paris spots left. A smile on the face of Grandmaster Hans Niemann. He is going to Paris, and he has won his first 2 SEC matches in convincing fashion. What a memorable victory, David. The chess is spoken, and it's spoken for Hans Niemann.
That's right. There was a lot of chess today for Hans Niemann, and those pieces, they spoke in his favor. 13 points to 10 against Wesley. So Hans there, I think, looking relieved, looking like he's just glad his marathon day of chess is over. This was the final score. He won the 5+1 segment in the end by 3 points. That proved to be decisive. That was the winning margin, 3 points in the end. The 3+1 and 1+1 were actually drawn despite Hans leading from the front the whole time. And this is the bracket. We see it confirmed. The second semi-finalist. Firouzja won yesterday, and Hans Niemann will join him in Paris. Yet to be decided are the quarterfinals between Magnus Carlsen, Arjun Erigaisi, and Hikaru Nakamura and Jan Nepomniachtchi. But we'll come to those, Dania. The man of the moment is Hans Niemann.